Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cultivating Compassion Education series, sponsored by Compassionate Care ALS. Our speaker today is our good friend Tom Daly, who's been with us many times in the past, and he'll be going a little deeper in his 4 essential gateways to wisdom teaching. Tom is a PhD and co-founder of the Living Arts Foundation with his wife, Jude Blitz. He founded the 4 Gateways Coaching and is the creator of Radical Soul Care Training Program. Tom is a teacher, mentor, life coach, and a nationally respected elder in men's soul work. He has worked with CCALS for many years as a coach for both caregivers and those living with ALS. He is perhaps best known for his ability to create safe spaces for deep inner soul work. Welcome, Tom, and thank you for being with us here today. I'd like to take a moment and introduce our founder, Ron Hoffman, to say a few words. Welcome, Ron.
Thank you, James. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here on a Sunday, and welcome. Tom has been a very dear friend of mine for, nearly 20 years, I would think. Very important person in my life. Tom became a teacher, mentor, colleague, and a very, very dear friend. And as James mentioned, Tom has been working with many of our folks for some years now. My hope is all of you take, if nothing else, just a nugget or two away from this talk. Tending to and caring for individuals or living with something like ALS, as we know, is incredibly extraordinary. And so these are tools, if you have a willingness, an imagination, a desire to just touch into and go a little deeper inward in what Tom shares. And yeah, I look forward to the next hour. Tom, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I always enjoy these and gives me a chance to kind of sharpen the tools each time I do. And so I'm really looking forward to being with you all today. Can you hear me all right? Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. So if you have the opportunity and it's available close by, it might be helpful to have a pen and paper for this because I will be taking you through asking some questions. And some people, really like to write them down, and others, just do the whole process in their head. So, yeah, if it's easy for you to have a piece of paper and a pen nearby, that's great. If not, don't worry about it. So today I'll be offering you a taste of this 4 gateways model that I've been using for many years. It can offer support and deepening um, in our ability to access all the different parts of ourselves. Um, and this is, I think, so important for the ALS community because um, it is such a difficult and stressful situation, and we need tools to work with this. And it's out of the ordinary. It's an extraordinary, challenging um, process that you're all going through. And I have used these tools with both caregivers and those living with ALS. So I hope you can find these 2 tools that I'm going to offer today valuable. So what are the 4 gateways? Um, the easiest way to describe the gateways are thinking, feeling, doing, and being. And James is going to put up a chart um, on the screen so you can get a better, a little bit more comprehensive view of what those 4 gateways are. So as James is doing that, I'm going to just say a little bit about um, where I was introduced to this model. And let's just see here. Yeah, so many years ago, in fact, way back in the 80s, I read a book called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover by Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette. And at that time, I was doing a lot of men's work, and that model of those four archetypal energies, for those of you that don't know what an archetype is, it's basically some symbolic energy that lives in all our psyches. So when we say something like magician or warrior, instantly, something springs to mind. And of course, this is, if they're real archetypes, they are cross-cultural. So no matter what language we're saying them in, people get an image right away. And this archetypal kind of work was developed by the Swiss psychologist Carl Jung. And so I was a student of his work for many years. And then I began using these four archetypes, the magician, the lover, the warrior, and the king and queen, or together, we could call them the sovereign. So as you can see on this chart, there's an energy of each one of these. The lover is feeling and connecting. The warrior is serving and protecting. And the magician is thinking and thinking and reflecting. And then the sovereign energy is blessing and respecting. So there are other words that we can use for these. Some people are much more comfortable using the words thinking, feeling, being, and doing. And some people really like to relate to it as those archetypal energies. I find that pretty easy since I've been doing this for a long time, but for some people it's difficult. So you can think of it as the director, the connector, the protector, and the advisor. That's also, easy to relate to. So let's go ahead and take that down, James. And yeah. So as you can see, this model is a kind of a comprehensive way to look at how we all operate. I mean, when we use this model, we're actually tapping into this hardwiring in the psyche. And so rather than just using our minds to address problems and to work through things, we're also accessing our heart, that sense of deep knowing within us that's represented by the sovereign, and also we can learn by doing. So I once looked up the the dictionary definition of soul, and it turned out that it aligns really well with the four gateways. So the definition of soul from the dictionary is the essence or animating principle or actuating cause of life or individual life, manifested as thinking, feeling, willing, and knowing, and is the seat of vitality, life, and action. So, even in the dictionary, they're talking about those four different kind of archetypal energies. So, over the years, I found that, this model just has amazing broad applications pretty much in any field of endeavor, at the personal level, relational level, vocational level, and spiritual level. And, a lot of the people that I've trained to do this, of course, are therapists and coaches, but also doctors and social workers, lawyers, musicians, senior executives, ministers, mediators. It's really a powerful tool for almost any field of endeavor, and especially, I think, for people that are working with really difficult situations in their lives, like you all are. So, how are we going to use the model? So today, I want to introduce you to the four gateways, and I'm going to be offering two different ways to use the model. One will be more related to your own self-care, and the second will be to assist you in creating circles of support for yourselves. So I'd like to start by using the model for some issues that you might have around self-care. So I'd like to just start with a very brief centering practice. So if you would, close your eyes, if you're comfortable with that, and take a few conscious breaths. Just really feeling the air coming in through your nose. And softening your jaw, softening your eyes, and just feeling your weight in the chair. And coming down also to soft belly. Just soften as much as you can. And as you exhale, just follow that breath all the way. Inhale and then follow your exhale all the way through your body. And then, as best you know how to do it, come to your center place, whatever that means to you. And as you find that center place, just take a breath right into that area. For some, it's, in the head, some it's in the heart, some it's in the belly, some it's a more global feeling. Yeah, whatever works for you. And so in that place, I'd like you to call forth an issue that you might have around self-care. It's like, what's something that's really important to you around your own self-care? Something you want, some goal you might have related to self-care, some desire. What is a want that you might have? And this could be, at the physical level, like doing more exercise, eating better. Could be mental, being more creative about how you face ALS. Could be relational. Could be how to be a better partner, how to listen better. Or it could be at the spiritual level, like deepening your meditation practice, getting clearer about your relationship to your higher power. Yeah. So lots of possibilities here. And I'd like you to just focus in on one for today. Obviously, you could do this again and focus in on a different level of self-care at some other time. So what is it? One specific area around self-care that you're really wanting to take a look at. Actually, that you're really desiring to have happen in your life. And for those of you that I can see, if you just give me a thumbs up when you have an issue that you'd like to work with. Something about some level of taking care of yourself at a deeper level. Okay, so I've seen a few thumbs and hoping those that I can't see are okay with having an issue. So when you go for what you want regarding this self-care issue, what might be in the way? What keeps you from actually getting it more fully? What might show up instead? Like you want to get more exercise, you want to eat better, you want to have a deeper relationship with your partner, you want to deepen your meditation practice, and then something gets in the way. Something shows up instead of what you want.
Tom, would this be a time to write down the issue you had and then start working these on the paper if you're that type,
Sure.
if you'd
Yeah,
like?
thanks for that, James. Yeah. If you have the paper, it'd be great to just write down what it is that you want regarding self-care and what gets in the way or what shows up. So now I'm going to actually have you kind of step back in your mind's eye or look at that piece of paper and imagine that you're looking at yourself from the outside. You're creating some distance. You're going to kind of a witness place of looking at this man or woman from the outside. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for questions that will evoke those different gateways. And so we'll get a 360 perspective on you with that issue in front of you. So looking at yourself with those two voices, the one you want and the other one that gets in the way or what shows up instead. And so first we're going to go to the magician or the thinking. So what are your thoughts and judgments about this person, this man or woman, with this particular issue going on? What are your thoughts and judgments? And if you're writing these down, just, jot down a couple of notes. What are your thoughts and judgments about the person with this issue and that situation that they have in their life? Just allow any thoughts or judgments or, might be a criticism or whatever it is, just let it be there. Okay. So let that settle for a minute and just imagine that you're kind of turning to a 45-degree angle and you're looking at yourself still again, but from a slightly different perspective. And so in this case, I'd like you to take another deep breath and just coming down into your body, maybe in the region of your heart. And we're going to next ask the lover question, which is, when you look at yourself with this issue, what's the feeling you get? Just imagine you were looking at a dear friend and they were trying to do something better for their self-care, and there was somehow sabotage and they weren't able to do it or be it or make it happen. So what's the feeling that shows up for you? Are you sad for this person? Are you afraid? Are you angry? Sympathetic? Confused? Yeah, what's the felt sense? And just allow yourself to actually have that feeling too. It's like, what is that feeling that you get? And then those of you that are taking notes, you can just write that down real quickly. Just allowing the feeling, whatever it is. All right, so let's take another nice big deep breath and just imagine you're turning and looking at yourself from another 45-degree angle, different from the first two. You're seeing yourself from a somewhat different perspective now. And this next question will evoke your more sovereign energy. And this sometimes feels like more of a big picture feeling. What kind of support would be most helpful to this person in this situation? They're going for something they really want in regard to their self-care, and something else is showing up. What might you actually say to yourself by way of support? Some other part of you, that sovereign part of you that has the big picture, what could that part say to you about this situation or this dynamic between these two voices? And then the second part of this question is, what would outer support look like? How might others be very helpful to you? And I think this is, it's very important for those of you with ALS, because I know a lot of you are pretty self-reliant people, and it's hard to ask for support. And of course, critically now in your life, getting support from others is absolutely essential. So, yeah, what might those what might be supportive? What might be most supportive related to this particular issue around self-care? And again, just those of you that are writing it down, just make a few notes. What would be inner support and also outer support? And we'll go into that a little more deeply here later in the program. Okay. And take just a moment or two here and imagine what it would be like if he or she got that support. Just if you could even say to yourself one supportive message, imagining that you are sort of a grandfather or a grandmother that loves you, and you saw your grandson or granddaughter with this issue, what might you say to them to bless them and support them? And just notice how that feels right now to maybe hear a different inner voice, one that's has compassion and caring. All right, so I'd like you to take another deep breath and just let that go for a minute. And then we're going to take another quarter turn. So imagine in your mind, you're looking at yourself now from a fourth perspective. And this will be the warrior quadrant, the warrior gateway. So the question here is, what might show up as a possible action step to move you in the direction that you want? What might be a possible action step? Something that you can actually do, something realistic that would move you in the direction you want. And I think it's always important when you're talking about action steps to make it very real. You need to ask, when will you do that? The warrior energy is all about accountability. And so it's like, yeah, let's make it real. What action step could you take and when might you do that? And I'm also going to swing back to the support piece again and make it much more related to taking this action step. Who will support you in taking some action in this direction that you want to go? So just jot that down or lock that in mentally. So let's take another nice big deep breath and just imagine you're coming back to your center place and just reviewing real quickly, looking at yourself, what thoughts and judgments there were. Are those thoughts and judgments really true? Can you really allow the feeling in the lover energy? Can you really allow yourself to feel whatever it is in the moment? And in the sovereignty, what support would you find to be helpful, both at an inner level from that, supportive grandmother or grandfather, I like to think of some ideal support figure, or who might support you from your family and friend circle? And last but not least, what action step would be helpful in getting the self-care that you want? When would you be willing to do that, and who would you ask for support? So taking a nice big deep breath right now, just feeling all that within yourself, and just opening your eyes, and if they're closed, and coming back to our circle here, our big circle, sort of our rectangles actually, our little rectangles. And yeah, I would love to hear from any of you, how that was for you, any insights or awarenesses that came as a result of that, if you'd be willing to share um, with the group.
You can type into the chat also if that's easier for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to hear how that was. It's I find that it's so satisfying to be able to look at any issue from all four of these quadrants. I think that's probably the most important part of this, is that we so often just try to figure things out, you know, using logic or sometimes intuition, but we forget that we have these other inner resources of feeling. And of course, we all have feelings about all these, but we don't imagine that's a resource. So do we have any brave souls that would like to just share a little bit about what you noticed? Charlie?
Yeah. I have a desire to take better care of myself, get sleep and exercise. I know it's two things, but they're
That's
uh, and I keep running up against this other goal of mine, which is to give my beloved the most beautiful and loving walk home possible, and I don't
mm,
know it.
mm,
And so I keep running up against that, and I guess that's my own sense that maybe on a deeper level, I don't feel worthy of taking care of myself, or that's.
right.
But there's some realistic things around deficits in terms of sleep and help that
Absolutely.
also get in the way, and I don't know. I'm trying to manage that. So through this whole process here at the end, I did come up with a name of someone who offered, and I'm going to figure out a way to get that person to fill in some gaps for me. So thank you.
Okay. Yeah, that's so important. Yeah, were you able to hear any inner voices that felt supportive? When I ask you to think of a benevolent grandfather or somebody that would
Yeah,
love you, and yeah, what voice came up there?
you're worthy of love and care for yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so important to remember, that we have these inner resources available to us, but we do have to stop and ask for it, you know? I mean, sometimes people think of an ancestor that would be supportive, and they imagine that ancestor giving them, some loving support and sympathy. I mean, I was fortunate to have a really wonderful grandfather, and so I can just think of what he might say to me in those situations. And yeah, so that's awesome. Thank you. Anybody else?
A couple of things in the chat there, Tom.
Okay.
Veronica says, I really need to be easier on myself. Um,
Yep.
and Melody says, allowing myself to be more vulnerable with my caregiver and listening without having to be so fiercely independent.
Wow. Yeah. Sure. Well, I'd love to hear if the process moved you in the direction of, it was Veronica and what was the other? Who else?
Melody.
What's that?
Melody.
Melody. Great.
We've also got a message in here from Bonnie that says, working on my anger towards the disease, ALS and FTD, the latter being the most frustrating as a caregiver. I
Ah,
live in daily hell with symptoms changing daily.
yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, we've only got about another 20 minutes, so I think I will move on to the next piece. Those are very powerful desires, and I think this next piece might be helpful for each of those questions, because I want to dial in a little deeper on this issue of support. It is so important, both for those with ALS and caregivers, to get support. I mean, this is not something you can do on your own, or, it just doesn't work. It's too intense. So, and I think it's important to know too that, those with ALS and caregivers, have uniquely different journeys here, and they're sometimes at odds. So it's important that each of you have your own support system, as well as some big picture support like CCALS can provide. So I want to have you all be able to look at who is in your support circle and who you can call in. We often depend too much on one or two people in our lives, especially when we have a stressful situation that, and in this case, it's extra stressful. And so it's important to balance that energy and not have it fall on one or two people. And so if you can have a support person from each of the gateways, then you're going to be so much happier. Both you and, well, either role you're playing in this situation, you're both going to be a lot feel better taken care of. So I want you to close your eyes again, and I want you to imagine that you're looking at yourself again from the outside, and take another few conscious breaths. Just feel your breath come in. Center yourself as best you can. And then seeing yourself in your current life situation. It's like right here, right now, today. And as I speak about how you might experience support in each of the gateways, I want you to see if you can imagine someone that could fill that role in your life. So let's start with the magician energy, the thinking. Who could you imagine will support your reasoning powers, be a powerful thinking partner, help you to create options, look impartially at possibilities? Who could support you in inquiring about the validity of your thoughts and beliefs and support you in getting to your deepest truths? Now, that's a mouthful for sure. And, there are people in your life who could do that. And then just imagining right now who that might be. It might be one or two people. It could be a man or a woman. So next, imagining what warrior support would look like. Protectors who will watch your back, who will defend and protect you, help you set boundaries, support you in saying, really clear yes or no, depending upon the situation, and who will hold you accountable, keep you on track, support you in taking those appropriate action steps to keep both your inner and outer house in order. The warrior protector. Who could be that person in your life? See if you can come up with someone who could do that for you. Next, let's go to lover energy, the connector. Who will love and support you in your heart connections? Who will help keep your relationship thriving? Help you to take care of your body in sweet and gentle ways? Who will remind you to maybe do a little singing and connect with nature? And most importantly, who will support your tears and grief when that's needed? Would really be there for you and just allow that sadness to happen when it's appropriate. Create space for that. So who could be your lover ally who could help you stay connected deeply to your feelings? Just imagine who that could be, and then take a nice big deep breath, and we'll go to the sovereign. Who will bless you for just who you are and remind you of your deepest values and your soul path? Who remind you of the impeccability of what you deeply know and make your wants known? Who will help you remember your connection to your higher power and help you hold the big picture and feel the joy of gratitude? No matter how things are in your life, there's always an opportunity for gratitude. Who could remind you to do that? So this sovereign, who's going to offer you blessings and respect and keep reminding you that you deeply know your path. All right. So again, come back to your center place and just quickly reviewing who's the person that could be there for you as a thinking partner, who's there for you in taking action, setting boundaries, and protecting you, who could be there for you in love and support, your heart connections, being with you in your grief, and lastly, who can bless you for just who you are, no matter what, and remind you that you deeply know your purpose and staying with it, connecting to the part of you that is the I am, is the one that is back there behind all the thoughts and feelings and connections. That one that is the conscious being and can be there with it all. So Taking a breath and coming back into the circle. Our community of support here. Yeah, so I know many of you, when I do this, in workshops or other training programs and with individual clients, it's pretty obvious that most people don't have support in all four of those gateways. And it becomes quite a challenge, but it's a challenge that's very worth it. If you can have, you might have one person in two areas there, but if you could have a four-part support team, you will feel much more clear and soul satisfied. It's really hard to have to depend on, one person or two people. And so I really encourage you all to work on this, to find somebody that can really be there in all four quadrants. Any new action that I take, I and something I want, I try to think immediately of who can support me in doing that. And it's tremendously helpful. So we have a few more minutes here. I'd like to hear if any of you got any insights in doing that, any awarenesses from how your support system looks like.
And Tom,
Yeah.
earlier you mentioned your grandfather. And can you touch back in? Because as you stated, it can be hard to have 4 people, 3 people, sometimes even 2 people.
Yeah.
That support. But to talk about the ancestral piece, because some of that support can come from those who, like your grandfather, who is no longer with us.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. This can be an inner and outer support. And I know it's tough. I know it's tough to, like allow another support person to come in the house or, be on the phone with them. And you have to take a risk. The another important item here is as you reach out to possible support people in your life, it's good to ask them very specifically, what kind of support and how that might look. Yeah, I know that's hard, and most of us, do not have much practice in this, and that's part of this whole Four Gateways process is really taking the risk to reach out, and Ron and CCLS can really help, in these situations. Ron has a lot of resources. And so if you need some support in some area that you don't feel like you have it, please let him know. I know CCALS has people that specifically support in these 4 different ways. So please reach out. Yeah, so let's just open it up here. Oh, there's a question. My 3 kids are the ones who are, I can't read the rest of it. Let's see. My 3 kids are the ones who always, my supporters, and I'm the one who remembers that Jesus is my highest power. Beautiful. Thank you, Veronica. Yeah. So do your kids, do you feel like your kids spread out over those 4 quadrants, or are they all just loving you to death all the time? You can type it in. Thanks. Yep. That's so great. Sounds like you have at least 4 right now, so that's perfect. Yes, thanks, Veronica. Anybody else? So in the last few minutes that we've got here, just are there any broad questions or anything else that you'd like to know about access to the model? I can easily send you a link to our website. Both my wife and I do this work with individuals and families, couples. And so, we'd be happy to work with any of you if it feels right. And James is going to forward the 2 charts and the questions. The second chart being, those different dimensions of support and the questions that I ask. So you will have access to that. And of course, you can always come back to this recording and hear those questions again. Yeah. So.
Tom, there are a couple of more things in the chat here.
Okay.
Melody says this was extremely helpful, getting me to continue widening my support circles.
Great.
And this brings to mind something that maybe Ron, you could comment on, and Tom, just related to something that I know you're a big advocate of, Ron, which is a circle of care. And this kind of relates to that idea of having that broad support system built around you. And I know you've seen that work really well over the years. Maybe you'd want to say a couple of words about how that you see that relating to this talk today.
Sure. We do many gatherings in many ways, just like this. I mean, if we were together, we'd be sitting in circle. And as we listened attentively to Tom, we listen to one another. So it's about holding space for each other as we're navigating the questions, whether it's these 4 gateways or anything else that comes up. That's what makes, in my judgment, a lot of our programming incredibly unique rather than additional support groups. And I know there's value there, but I know in our programs, we honestly, truly, truly listen. Our circle of care often is we bring families together, listen, share with maybe different ways of navigating this, different ways of listening to one another. And this is hard. It's incredibly hard. And I know the model that Tom is sharing has impacted my life and many thousands of people over the years. And sometimes it can be hard. Sometimes it's hard for me. As we were just doing this, I went back, and part of the question I had with Tom is I often have to go back to an uncle or my great-grandfather who I happen to know and the stories I heard for support. Now that can be strange to some, but for me, it's no different than if I'm praying to God or Jesus, or if I want to talk to the Buddha or whomever. Prayer, when we can bring someone in, when we have that question, what do I do with this? And oftentimes we'll get an answer. So whether it's someone who's alive for that support, or whether it's someone who's gone beyond, someone who's gone before us, to me, all equally as important.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see from the chat, sometimes family are right there for you, and otherwise sometimes they're not. And you can, you really have to just go with what's available. Yeah, I mean, it's it's so important, like Ron was saying, just to reach out to other people in the community, if your family isn't available for this kind of support. Yeah. So I'd like to just end with just maybe for those of you that can speak or want to put it in the chat, just one sentence, maybe, or a few words, what you learned or appreciated, any like a takeaway from today. And so anybody can unmute and just say one sentence here or a few words.
Got one in the chat already from Ruthie saying, "Thank you, Ron, for offering these opportunities. We're so grateful to all that you do for us. And thank you, Tom, for a new learning."
Great. Bonnie?
I try to hold on to the blessings of the day, the bright spots of the day.
Beautiful.
And am grateful for those that have stepped up to support us, even though they're not blood,
Yeah.
you know. But so blood isn't always thicker than water, but sometimes
Right.
the water comes rushing in when you need it the most.
Yeah. That's so great. Thank you. Anybody else?
A couple more in the chat here. Anne says, "Thankful to have such great support system." Melody is saying that she relies on trust and faith. Charlie mentions, "Thank you for helping me think through how I might better put my support network together." Melanie says, "Thank you also, Ron, and all of CCALS." And Ruthie says, "I agree with Bonnie. I try to look at the blessings."
Good. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, I think that's right on schedule. Somebody, let's see, Eileen said, yeah, let's see, thank you. I'm no longer caring for my spouse as he went over the rainbow, but the inability to set boundaries for myself. Now that I have time, folks, process helped me clarify that I can take simple and concrete steps to getting regular massages and calm my mind and take time out, presumably rebuild my life. Now, thank you for that. Yeah, Eileen, it's so important, you know, so important. And building a new life takes a lot of self-care, many levels.
Yeah, I'd
Thanks.
like to remind Tom, I'd like to remind everybody, all of you are in such a sacred space. I think oftentimes that's forgotten. You know, you're living in extraordinary circumstances. And I would just offer to you and remind you, please be gentle with yourselves. There's not a book written that I'm aware of that can tell anyone how to do what y'all have been doing. You know, so it's huge appreciation on our part. And thank you for showing up here.
Yeah.
Tom, thank you. And I'll let you finish up, James.
Sure. Yeah, I just recall the Dalai Lama saying, you know, his religion is kindness, you know, and if we could all remember that, you know, kindness for ourselves and those around us, you know, the world would be a much better place. So it's a great practice.